boys and girls. I'm so happy to be with you. I'd like to read you one of my favorite spring stories. It's called Possum and the Peeper. And I'd like to read it on the first day of spring. Thursday, March 19th was the first day of spring. But before we read, I'd like to do a finger play with you. Get your 10 fingers ready. I have 10 little fingers, and they all belong to me. I can make them do things. Would you like to see? I can shut them up tight. I can open them wide. I can put them together, and I can make them all hide. I can make them jump high. I can make them jump low. I can fold them quietly and hold them just so. Boys and girls, you know the interesting thing about this finger play is that there are words that rhyme. Do you know what that means? Let me show you some rhyming words. Me and see, wide and hide. Those are rhyming words. Those words sound the same at the end of the word. Me, see, wide, hide. What other rhyming words do you know? I know one. Cat, hat. Talk to your mom and dad today and see how many rhyming words you can think of today. Let's get to our story. My book today is called Possum and the Peeper, Words and Pictures by Ann Hunter. So she was the author and the illustrator. And the pictures in this book are beautiful. I wonder what a peeper is. Let's find out. Peep, peep, peep. Possum opened one small eye. What was that noise? He buried his head deeper in his warm winter nest. Peep, peep, peep. I'll never get back to sleep with all that racket, he said. I'm going to go find out who's being so inconsiderate so early in the spring. Possum stepped out into the cool, green morning. Peep, peep, peep. Possum looked up. A pair of catbirds were building their nest high in a tree among the new leaves. Is that you peeping up there? Demanded Possum. Not us, said the catbirds. We can scarcely hear ourselves sing with all that clamor. Well, I'm going to go see for myself who's making such an awful din. We'll come too, said the catbirds. We can search high in the trees while you look low on the ground. And they set off through the woods. Possum stopped to sniff the trout lilies blooming along the path. Peep, peep, peep. They followed the noise up a hill. At the crest of the hill stood a bear, blinking blearily outside his cave. Who woke me from my warm winter sleep? He snarled, showing his long white teeth. Was it you? He said, spying Possum. No, said Possum, but we are on our way to find out who it was. I had better come along then, growled the bear. You may need someone of my size when you find this fellow. They continued over the hill, the catbirds flying overhead, the bear grumbling along behind. The spring sun shone down warm on their feathers and their fur. Peep, peep, peep. The sound was getting louder and louder. They came down to a marsh where they saw a muskrat spring cleaning his house. "Excuse me," shouted Possum. "Have you been peeping?" "What?" yelled the muskrat. "I can't hear you over all that noise." "Well, we're on our way to put a stop to it, once and for all," said the bear. "If you could show us the way through this swamp." They pressed on, following the muskrat, peering between new green shoots and into dark pools, closer and closer, louder and louder. Possum pushed aside some reeds. "Aha!" they cried, squinting at a small spot on the bank. "How could such a speck of a thing make such a huge racket?" asked the bear. "You have woken up the entire forest, little frog," said Possum. And the little peeper looked up from the possum to the muskrat to the catbirds and finally to the bear. And then he puffed out his tiny throat. "Rise and shine," he shouted. "Shake a leg, build your nests, and clean your burrows. It's spring, it's spring, it's spring." The bear stepped closer to the little frog. "I," he growled, "don't like to be awakened so early in the year. Especially," he added, "by a frog." He's not a happy bear. "Oh, but look at the beautiful spring flowers," cried the peeper, "and sniff the good spring smells. How could you want to sleep through such a glorious spring day?" The animals looked around at the budding trees. They smelled the blooming flowers and felt the warm sun shining. They listened to the buzzing bees and the warbling birds. Legs stretched and bellies rumbled. It was true, quite true. No one could deny that it was a fine thing indeed to be out and about on the first warm day of spring. "There's nothing quite like a good walk on a spring morning," proclaimed Possum. "Won't you join us for breakfast, little peeper?" But the spring peeper was already peeping again at the top of his lungs. "Time for breakfast, toast and tea. The early bird gets the worm. Peep, peep, peep. Peep, peep, peep." Isn't that a great story, boys and girls? And do you notice that there are so many animals in the story? These were hibernating animals. The possum and the bear, they hibernated during the winter, and they got up in the spring. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you could come back tomorrow. Miss you.